The Signature Bank Studios.
Insert Democrat socialist here.
Runs the Democratic House floor for 30 plus years running. He's promising this and he's stealing that. Where can you get that kind of money? He's using your house like his own piggy bank. You ought to know by now. You can pay off your house here in Illinois. You can never keep up with the taxes. Oh, how it's always been the plan to have a taxpayer pay, no doubt. Not a matter of if anymore, but when you're moving out. I said, when you're moving out.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. That theme music means it's time for our weekly conversation with the Wirepoints.org crew. All things Illinois policy related. Sad news. You know, she's so focused on others that she left herself exposed. This is why, as I mentioned before the news, I think we should collectively set up a revolving GoFundMe fund for Chicago Dem socialist politicians who can't pay their bills. They don't have time for it. They can't focus on that because they're too busy improving your quality of life. That's why Brandon Johnson had trouble paying his water bills, and Stacey Davis Gates similarly had a Chicago Teachers Union, despite the fact that, you know, both make more than $200,000, well more in Stacey Davis Gates' case, in part or tangentially connected to off taxpayers. Same with Triple Threat. I mean, she was a partner at Mayor Brown. And then she was making the same $200,000 plus that BLM Brandon is making. So I was surprised to learn that she got sued by J.P. Morgan Chase for not paying her credit card. Lightfoot served in October at her Chicago home with a lawsuit from J.P. Morgan Chase for failing to pay about $11,000 in bills, according to a copy of the complaint filed in Cook County Circuit Court. The suit says Lightfoot did not object to the bank's last statement issued before it declared her debt a charge-off in March. Her last payment on the card was August of 2025, amounting to $5,000. Her next court hearing in the case was in December, according to the complaint reported on just recently by the Tribune. A Lightfoot spokeswoman, she still has one of those. Maybe that's why she's overspending. Declined to comment. You know, but again, she's been focused on rooting out corruption in Dalton. She's been focused on the ICE Accountability Project to collect and document alleged criminal activity or abusive conduct by federal law enforcement officers in enforcing federal immigration law. So, you know, we can't bother her with these details. I wonder if she's still, like, if she financed those Rona Destroyer and Corona Buster costumes that she and Allison Arwardi dressed up as during those heady days of COVID lockdowns that they enjoyed so much. I wonder if she financed, put it on a card, the Census Cowboy. Not to mention all those custom Joe Pesci suits with the little fedora she used to wear. Darling. Sad. You know, I mean, if we can raise money to pay Mickey Rourke's rent, we can certainly raise money to pay Lori Lightfoot's credit card bill, don't you think? Mark Glennon, founder of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Welcome, Mark. Thank you.
Good morning, Dan. And yeah, you got to wonder about the scope of this problem. I've tried to get my arms around that, looking at what the total amount is that's delinquent, unpaid in utility bills in Chicago, where people take a cue from leaders like Brandon Johnson and Lori Lightfoot and Stacey Davis Gates, and just aren't paying their utility bills. The rest of us, of course, have to make up for that. And it's probably, undoubtedly a massive problem, and it goes into credit cards as well.
Well, yeah, I
Uh,
know, but I'm not worried about the hoi polloi. I'm worried about our betters like Lori Lightfoot and BLM Brandon and Stacey Davis Gates. That we have to take care of them before we take care of ourselves because they're doing that for us, right?
Yeah, there you go. There's like you said, a partner at Mayor Brown. She's no doubt got plenty of money. She chooses not to and passes off this debt, on the rest of us or on the credit card company.
Well, I mean, property taxes too. People not paying their property taxes in part because they can't. I mean, story last year that we recounted on this show. I mean, in Fort Heights, for example, the poorest community in Cook County, basically the only institutions or people paying property taxes there are those guys that own the strip clubs.
No doubt, and the number of places like that down there is growing. Certainly, Harvey is in the same boat. The only institution really operating down there is Ingalls Memorial Hospital, which doesn't pay any property taxes, I think, probably. There's no revenue source anymore in some of those towns, and it's a failed government.
Yeah, we were just talking about Minnesota being a failed, frauded state. We have a lot of experience with that here, it would seem. The other thing I just learned the other day, just in terms of the cost of this sort of profligacy, the electronic monitoring system in Cook County that's currently under the watch of the chief judge of Cook County Cook County Courts, which is, of course, Charles Beach now. They don't have anybody doing electronic monitoring on weekends or holidays because they can't afford it. Ostensibly, they don't have the budget for it. So all these people that CWB Chicago has been documenting for the past 5 years who've committed violent crimes while on electronic monitoring for another violent crime that were released under the Safety Act, and sometimes in opposition to Cook County state's attorneys who wanted the individual detained. This is really important. The judges knew, and I don't think this has been disclosed publicly. The judges knew that they were releasing people not only that were alleged to commit a crime, and probably more often than not had extensive criminal histories. They knew there was nobody to monitor them, even if there was a good faith effort made to monitor them on weekends and holidays.
Gee, holy cow. That's news to me, Dan. That seems explosive to me. It's like, judicial malfeasance if, you're releasing somebody under the pretext of having them monitored, knowing they're not going to be monitored. Heads ought to roll in many places on that. It's astonishing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I understand from a reliable source. And if that does indeed check out, then obviously Tim Evans knew. Charles Beach knows. A lot of other people should know, have to know. Tony Preckwinkle. Maybe some enterprising people can ask some questions about this when you have, I know murders are at a historic low, but the census and the polling data seems to back this up, and it's not because of it leads coverage of the Chicago Press Corps. People are experiencing something very different in terms of their quality of life, and tuning in addition, or in part, their perception of how safe they are physically in the city, as compared to what they're supposed to believe based on one statistic, homicide from last year.
Yeah, it would be nice if we told them that it's open season on weekends in terms of supposedly monitored criminals.
Yeah, I mean, it's just astounding. Something else you wrote about, too, we talked about a little bit earlier in the program in the context of the Ivy Leagues. DEI, which isn't making the headlines that it used to, but it is still present anywhere you have Democrat socialists in charge of a government or a mediating institution. You wrote about this with respect to what happens at the state level, state agencies, and the DEI re-education that is ongoing under this governor.
Yeah, it continues. What I wrote about was the overt training that's forced on all state employees, and it is as express and radical as anything we saw at the height of DEI after George Floyd and all the rest, rising to the level, in my view, of a potential constitutional claim for forced speech and all the rest. But yeah, you've got to sit through these mandatory classes and sign off. The employee has to sign off that they basically agree with the policies there. And so, for example, if you engage in microaggressions and use phrases like a melting pot, which is deemed racially offensive, you can get fired for that. I mean, that's what the policy says, and that's the document you have to acknowledge by signing off. All state employees are subject to that training, and that's according to a written training document that's been circulated.
And it has all the hits, right? Systemic oppression, intersecting identities, LGBTQIA, 2S plus theory. All of that is shoehorned into this re-education training that's happening in state agencies.
All of it. Systemic white supremacy, everything you heard in the past 6 years or something.
Mm-hmm. Because diversity is our strength, Mark, and don't you ever let you forget it. Mark Glennon, founder of Wirepoints, wirepoints.org, all things Illinois policy related. Also, you can read his musings at substack.com/@MarkGlennon. Mark, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Take care.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560.